Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Winds channel. Going to take a look at the astrological weather report for not only the week of January 30th through February 5th, but a quick look at just the month of February. And get both of them together. And a big thing this week is actually next weekend on Sunday, we're going to get a full moon at 17 degrees Leo in a T-square with Uranus. A couple other things going on during the week I want to talk about a little bit too. And like I said, just a couple things in February, not very much really in the background energy of February. But first off, the Astrological Winds channel is a free service that I offer every week as a video blog or an audio blog on different podcasts. And if you have YouTube, a YouTube account, you can become a follower, and you just turn on your notifications and you'll know when the blog is posted every week. And because it is a free account, I ask that you guys help me to keep it growing organically. You've done a really good job in the last year, and when we're done with the blog, if you can pass it on to someone else, I'd appreciate it. And if you want to give a donation, I appreciate that too. But this is really, the best way we can help me have the blog grow. And I am a professional astrologer too, so really the best way to support me is when you need a reading to get in touch with me, and I'll give you some more info later. But the best way to get in touch with me is matthue823 @gmail.com, and that is my email, and I'll keep that contact. But let's get into the stuff now. Remember, I like to remind everyone every week, because I know there's new people listening to the blog, and some people don't know much about astrology, but they're interested. They have a little interest. Other people know a lot about astrology that listen to the blog or watch the blog too. So I like to tell the astrological signatures first, but if you don't know astrology, don't get lost on that part. What you want to hear is my interpretations of what that means for the weather, the energy of this week, and how you can best use that to your advantage for what you're doing and what's going on in your life. So that's very important. Don't get hung up on the astrological language or terms and then forget to listen to the most important thing, which is the interpretations, which is mostly what I'm saying anyway. All right, so February. Now remember what I said last week, right? Uranus had gone direct last Sunday, so that meant last planet of the 7 planets that was retrograde was now direct. And really, that's the main theme of February. Full steam ahead. There's no major aspects going on that are exact among any of the outer planets. There's no planets going retrograde. There is a couple asteroids, one going retrograde and one going direct, which I will talk about briefly. But there's none of the major 7 planets changing direction or going into another sign either. So we have a really clean month. Just like I mentioned last week, not only do we have all these planets going direct, but they're in the signs they're in. They're acting the way they are without interfering with one another. So this is really, really a month to push ahead, to get out there and into the external world and get things going. And it's kind of interesting, if you even look, just as an example, sometimes I'd like to give examples in the mundane world. The economy seems to, since the Mars went direct and Mercury now going direct too, it seems to be slowly coming back and waking up a little bit. So maybe, we'll see some positive energy in your sphere, that anything that you have going on, anything that you want to push on any kind of level too, it can be physical, abstract, whatever it may be, this next month, 2, 3, until about April 21st, all the planets are direct. Then that is the time to do it. So it's a very pure energy going on this month. Now, there are a couple things I did want to mention, and a couple of them are actually this week. And two of them go on with series, and that's actually this week on Friday. It is February 3rd this month. Ceres, which is the main asteroid, and there's four of the main asteroids. They each represent part of the female archetype. So Ceres represents the mothering kind of energy. It's about fertility, productivity, food, children, endeavors that are productive, things like that. Resources, getting what we need to live. It's not resources that are frivolous or additional. It's the basic need energy. So she is actually going retrograde on Friday, which means to me, we're probably going to still see resource issues in the next couple months or so while she's retrograde. That has been playing out mainly as supply issues. So that is something we can kind of still expect, even if we have like things moving forward. We may still run into certain supply issues on a societal type of level. What's interesting too is that also this week, Jupiter is opposite Ceres while it's stationing. So that's showing, there's a lot of growth, but is there the ability to meet a lot of that growth? And on a personal level too, this is an interesting little aspect, actually. I was thinking about this on a personal level, Jupiter opposite Ceres. It shows that many of us may be in positions right now where we're having to care for others, and it's taking up a lot of our time. It's almost like having to be a parent for, in any person who is in need of help, who's in need of not being able to give as much as they're receiving in our lives right now and needs our service somehow. So it can be a little bit burdensome. And with Jupiter there, it can feel really overwhelming. Like it almost can feel like, wow, this is like really taking over my life right now. It seems like every decision I make is tied into having to deal with this caretaking situation that I'm in. So very interesting energy. And like I said, this is peaking in early February, and then Ceres will be retrograde for a while, and the rest of the month into March, into April. So we're gonna have to deal with some of that. Now also on the 8th, that's next week, Chiron is conjunct one of the asteroids too. It's conjunct the asteroid Juno, which once again represents part of the female archetype energy. This is the energy of partnership, intimacy, emotional type of connection. So when Chiron gets there, and it's a conjunction, it can be a mix of energy. It can feel like, because of our relationships that are intimate with partnerships, it opens us up to a vulnerability where certain wounds can easily be triggered by that person because they're so intimate with us. But it also opens us up to deeper understanding with one another and being able to take partnership energy to very intimate, deep levels that can trigger wounds in us. And then depending on how we respond to that, can bring healing and can bring another perspective so that we can bring healing in, or it can trigger that wound, especially if there's not a lot of tact or something going on involved, that that where we can get really hurt and by a partnership. But and so there's a lot of learning that we can about ourselves through that energy too. And like I said, that's on February 8th, and that'll be most of the month pretty potent energy. And of course, Chiron, that means it's going to make 3 hits on that over the next year, but exact this month. And then the other thing was the asteroid Pallas, which is another one of the 3 of the formation. So we got a good asteroid lesson today in the monthly because there wasn't much else going on. But Pallas represents sisterly energy, creative energy of the mind, of the intellect, and having like causes that you rally around with people. And we had that very interesting one last week where Pallas was in the T square with Mercury and Chiron, which was a very interesting kind of aspect to have. And there was a lot of crazy stuff that went on last week that was painful type of things from people in their entrenched positions and feeling blocked. And here we're going to have Pallas, which represents that energy, that creative energy, going direct, actually. So it's going to join the 7 other planets, and this is going to be on the 16th when she goes direct. So it's going to join the 7 other regular planets going direct at this time, and really will get the creative mental processes going again, the ideals aligned with what we're doing in the outer world. Now, interestingly enough, a week later, Jupiter gets involved again, just like it did with Ceres. When Ceres goes retrograde, Jupiter makes an aspect with Pallas about a week after it goes direct. It squares Pallas, which shows that we may have a lot of challenges to our beliefs and values brought on by our own ambitions in the world. Like, we may find ourselves in places of power where we can that actually where we are can be challenged over our own values and whether we can still adhere to them, because we're in this ambitious push, and the world's reacting to that, and then maybe giving us something that maybe is even unethical or something, and from our perspective, and testing us to see if we'll stick to our ideals or allow success on a earthly kind of plane to take us off course. And there can be a lot to learn about ourselves in something like that. Okay, so let's get to the weekly. That's the monthly as far as February goes. I know it's not a lot, it's not really big things. The big point is direct energy, push ahead with your projects, ones that start new ones or get old ones going again. It's the time. Okay, so for this week, not much on today or tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, planetarily. Wednesday, there's a nice sun sextiling Chiron. And this is a time where, we can get opportunities that come to us that are really satisfying to our soul, that come into our life path and just seem to really align with where we'd like to go, especially viewing the future from where we are presently. And so it feels really good. It feels like healing, really, to our own life energy, to see that there's energies out there aligning with us, and using a lot of the best of what we have to give, to using our own talents and our own uniqueness to find that special or sweet spot where the opportunity opens up to us. So it's a really good time for learning about ourselves again through what's going on around us, and therefore even studying stuff and things like that. Information that comes to us through people or other sources can all be a source of really of nice healing, real nice healing kind of energy. So that's Wednesday. And then Friday is the day that Ceres goes retrograde. So I talked about that. And it's also the day of the exact sun square Uranus, which I'm going to talk about with the full moon on Sunday. So, but that I want you to know, this whole weekend coming up is going to be under the effect of this full moon and this sun square Uranus, which I'll get into in a minute. I just wanted to touch on one other thing first, and that is on Saturday. On Saturday, we have Venus square Mars. So Venus square Mars is a tense kind of energy. It can be very sexual, but like very wanting to come at that in a very satisfying way. So there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of passion behind it too, and there's a lot of indiscrimination, and not really, possibly making the best choices in our relationship. But there's also a strong creative energy behind this of wanting to actually produce creative output in the real world, to take action on our creative ideas, because there's this just intense, passionate energy inside us, and it's a great way to output that energy. Now, and then the thing is, where it's most challenging, Venus square Mars, is in existing relationships. That's where you can find like there's a lot of discord, and maybe realizing that, certain people that are close to you are never going to see things or do things the same way as you. And like just, almost having to learn to disagree is a good way to say it, or really understanding that, it wasn't really meant to be that kind of relationship maybe for you. Like, so there's just too much disagreement within that. So yes, but what it can do is it brings the truth out onto the floor, and therefore from there, compromises can be made. But that's the key word. Compromise means you got to give something up to get something that you want. And that's what Venus square Mars requires in order to continue to have relationships, especially ones that we've been involved with for a while, because it does show us where there's disagreement, where there's discord, and that it's really real. And then on Sunday, we do get that Jupiter opposite series that I talked about in the monthly, and then comes the big event of the week. Full moon at 17 degrees Leo. So that's the moon opposite the sun at 17 degrees Aquarius. So that's the key degrees you want to look at in your chart and find out what houses, what axis of houses that this full moon is falling on. And then you'll know on a personal level, how this full moon is going to affect you. And, I've said this before too. If anyone ever needs help with a little full moon reading, get in touch with me. Can do something like that for just like about 10 minutes. It's not going to cost you a lot of money. So like I've told you guys, MATTHUE823 at gmail.com is the best way to get in touch with me, or hit me in the comments section on YouTube or something. But anyway, that's what you want to look at. Where is that 17 degrees, and for Leo and Aquarius, and what axis in your chart, and then you'll know where this full moon is really going to be, pushing you. And so this full moon is locked in a tight T-square with Uranus in Taurus, which you remember just went direct about a week or so ago. So it's a very strong T-square, and nothing else going on with it. No other planet, in my opinion, really making any effect on this. And since it is in Leo, that means the sun, which is part of the full moon configuration, is the ruler of this full moon. So it's a very pure full moon. Again, it's not something where the energy is being interfered with by another planet and other energies besides that Uranus energy. And so full moon is a time of tension, right? Everything kind of comes up to the surface, right? And so what's the tension between the moon in Leo and the sun in Aquarius? Well, the moon in Leo really needs to have some kind of recognition to feel good, to feel right. It needs to have love. It needs to have attention. And it will do things openly to the point of even voyeuristically to get that attention. It's even like, to the point for like on a child's level, we'll even do negative things to get attention if that's necessary. So we gotta, understand, Leo is, that moon in Leo is seeking that attention for its own uniqueness. Leo is one of the most creative signs, if not the most creative sign. And it is the most uniqueness that each one of us has is like really requiring to be honored, for that Leo energy to feel good, to be respected and loved for who you are. So there's pride issues even involved. That's where like ego can get involved with Leo energy too, because it's like, if it's not being recognized for the uniqueness, if none of us are being recognized for our uniqueness, there's a pain that comes from that. And so like Leo really, really needs that. It finds joy in that, but it can tilt too far to a level of self-importance, of really blowing oneself up, of being like arrogant, really, even, and not being able to take in much energy. It's just pushing too much energy out. And that's where the opposition with the sun in Aquarius comes, because the sun in Aquarius is like, well, that's all fine and dandy, but what good is your talents for the collective, for the whole, for society, for the group, for the culture? What good is it? Now, it's really interesting because, they're on an axis, so they're working together. They're on the creativity axis, these two. Creativity for self versus creativity for group. So what the Leo moon is saying is, listen, Sun in Aquarius, if you want to have the system working in its most highly creative potential form for the group, for the collective, for society, then you have to allow each individual to actually find what their true and unique talent is and what they're supposed to be contributing to that greater whole, or otherwise it's not really reaching the true potential. So there's the tension that's going on. And two fixed signs, because so they're both stubborn about what they want, like Aquarius is stubborn in that really cool, calm, collected way, like about what it values, and will not be swayed by emotional content very much. Whereas Leo's like, let me show you how it is, and and get really dramatic and bring out the emotional side of it to hammer the point home of how each of us needs to be able to be the most highly creative self that we are in order for that system to work perfectly. So very interesting. That's the tension of the opposition going on. But within all of us, we have some balance point between those two. But we have to find it. And what's interesting, the square to Uranus tells me exactly what the moon Leo is saying to the sun in Aquarius. Listen, if people are not really who they're supposed to be, if they haven't found, or if they've found and are not able to use what their uniqueness is, what their talent is, then there is a problem in the system. There is a stick in the wheel, in the spokes. And it's not going to be as ideal as Aquarius wants it to be. It's not going to be reaching the highest octave that Aquarius wants it to reach. So the Uranus is reminding Aquarius of that. And it's interesting too, because it's the co-ruler of Aquarius. So Uranus is kind of like on the side of Leo here. It's saying within a square, it's saying, hey, things are going to be shaken up. Things can't be, there's no normal really here. So honor this energy of uniqueness. And if not, expect rebellion, expect freedom seeking, expect impulsive acts, expect energy that's not stable. And speaking of which, under this full moon, remember, when full moons are that very strong gravitational pull, we see what they do to the ocean. So this is when there's a lot of natural disaster type stuff, and Uranus is the planet that rules natural disasters. I wouldn't be surprised if we have some pretty serious stuff in this full moon period of natural disasters that shake things up. But that's what it can do in your life if you're not honoring that uniqueness. But it's also very stimulating. A square to Uranus from either the moon or the sun is not, necessarily a negative thing unless you're really trying to hold on to the way things are. Then it can be really upsetting. But there's an impatience, there's an edginess about, and we won't let other people or authorities or situations hold us down. We honor freedom. We have a very rebellious streak under this, individualistic, and it is required to reach that final fulfillment of what is best for us, which is what is best for everyone else. So it's a very interesting full moon, but we can expect shakeups in our worlds. We can have physical events that are surprising, like accidents. We have to be very careful of our actions on this weekend, because if we get impulsive, we can hurt ourselves, But we can also expect unexpected events coming through that we have no control over. That can be natural or man-made. Other people that are around us, the events that we're involved in, whatever it may be, can bring the element of surprise and be, and so therefore we have to be very careful about overreacting impulsively and then just really regretting the situation, but also understanding that we can be caught up in that energy, and that is what's going on now. It's really, all of us trying to, shake out and of, a lot of the things that are holding us back and pushing forward. But it brings, like I said, an edginess to it, and an energy that, we have to work hard with, because it's a square. And it's, hard to be patient with it. It's erratic, it's unstable, but it's trying to shake us out to a point where, we're honoring that creative uniqueness that's us, so that we can give our best gift to everything and everyone else. All right, well, that's all I got this week. I'm Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. It's a free service. I'd love to do it. I would do it anyway, but really the best way you guys can help me right now is, you're about to sign off, is take that link and pass it on to someone else. And I know you've done it already, right? I knew you did it already, but you're going to do it again, because over 50% of the population believes in astrology at this point. So there's a lot of people who might be interested, and we can let them make their choice. And remember, it's on YouTube, but it's also on podcasts. The YouTube channel, like I said before, become a follower, put on your notification, but really not necessary to watch me at all right now the way I do the blog. You can just, listening gives you a lot more time options to actually get a chance to hear the blog. And so you can be jogging or working out or in the shower or whatever it may be, and you get a chance to just hear it. And that's all you really need to do, and key in on those three things. It's also, I post the link on Instagram, and I usually get one or two things up on Instagram during the week too, on certain days that are, have a lot of activity. So there's might be some bonus stuff you may miss there. So look up Astrological Winds channel on Instagram and become a follower if you have an Instagram account. And when I do post additional stuff, it's not video or audio, so there's no commitment to anything besides reading a sentence or two for a few seconds. So, and also, if you'd like, I do post it on Facebook. A lot of people have been asking to be friends on Facebook, and that's fine. Just friend me first, Matthew with 2 T's, Lawton, Lauten. Best way you guys can support me is, I am a professional astrologer. I've been doing professional readings for over 20 years. If you are an astrologer, believer, or follower, and you haven't had your chart done, by a good professional astrologer, you really need to have it done. I really don't know what else to tell you guys. It's really so revealing and so self-empowering. So give that as a gift to yourself as soon as you can. And then every year around your birthday, predictive readings, I highly recommend. It's just like this blog I give every week for the week, except it's for you specifically for the next year. And just knowing the energy you're going to deal with. And, when times are hard or challenging, it's really nice to know that, hey, this is a natural process. This is, what it's about. This is around the time it'll be ending, that kind of thing. So around your birthday, I give myself a birthday present and, get that done every year. Also, relationship charts, if you're interested in why you're suddenly in a new relationship, or if you've been in one for a while and there's things going on in the relationship you want to look at, the chart work, we can do that. Children's charts, if you're are great for not only knowing how to approach a child in the way you would literally approach them and get the best response, but also knowing the key points in their life for the first 20 years of things that may come up. Also do relocation astrocartography if you're looking to move somewhere else, or seeing where the lines of certain planets have the most influence on the earth for you. Highly recommend doing that. Election charts, if you're starting a business, getting married, anything that's really important like that, do a chart, and we can find the best timing to do it within a framework of what you're working in to get to line up the energies for better success. Fixed star readings are for people who really do understand their natal chart already and are looking into the deeper soul purposes of their life and things like that. And they're very, very revealing. And if you are on that level where you do know your chart and have your predictive work done, and you're looking for another level, that is something that, I do recommend. Horary too, if you have a burning question that you can't seem to get the answer to, a lot of times we can look at a chart. And then if you have a group that is looking for a lecture or a class or a question and answer session, or mini readings or some kind of entertainment during an event, I'm available for things like that too. And I do have beginner classes available. All these things. Contact me through my email is the best way, which is matthue823@gmail.com. matthue823@gmail.com. Or, hit me up in the comments section and I'll, respond to you, and then we'll get some kind of conversation going. All right. Well, let's use this full moon to find that unique spark within us and, get that going and see what that can lead to for us to contribute our uniqueness to, the dawning and the new age of Aquarius coming in. All right. I will see you all next week, and we'll look at the weekly for next week for February 6th through 12th. All right. Until then, this is the Astrological Winds channel and Matt Lawton, and signing off.